for authoring such an important resolution, and I urge my colleagues to join all of us here on the floor now in support of the bill, and I continue to reserve the balance of our time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise today and I wish to yield as much time as he may consume to my distinguished colleague from the great state of Louisiana, Mr. Gow, the original sponsor of this legislation.
The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized for such time as he may consume.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from Georgia for yielding me time. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of House Resolution 342 to designate May 2nd, 2009 as Vietnamese Refugees Day. As the Vietnam War came to an end, millions fled communist-controlled Vietnam by boat and by land across the Cambodian, Laotian, and Thai borders into refugee camps. Like me, many of the conflict's refugees came to the United States. In fact, it was April 28, 1975, exactly 34 years ago today, that as Saigon fell, I climbed aboard a C-130 destined for the United States and my new life. To date, over 2 million Vietnamese boat people and other refugees of the conflict remain dispersed globally. In the United States, as of 2006, 72% of Vietnamese Americans are naturalized United States citizens, the highest rate among Asian groups. Vietnamese Americans have made significant contributions to the cultural and economic prosperity of the United States. They count among their ranks artists, singers, actors, scientists, astronauts, restaurateurs, Olympians, and elected officials. While Vietnamese Americans' accomplishments are significant and notable, it is critical that their history and the history of their ancestors be recorded. Mr. Speaker, on May 2nd, 2009, the Library of Congress Asian Division is joining many Vietnamese American organizations across the United States in sponsoring a symposium entitled Journey to Freedom, a Boat People Retrospective. In honor of this significant event, I ask my colleagues support House Resolution 342 to designate May 2nd, 2009 as Vietnamese Refugees Day. By doing so, we enshrine in the hearts and consciousness of Americans the tragic, heroic, and uplifting stories of perseverance and the pursuit of freedom of millions of Vietnamese refugees to ensure those stories will stand as an inspiration to generations of Americans to come. With that, I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Mr. Speaker, we have no further speakers, but I continue to reserve our time.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to my distinguished colleague from the state of Nebraska and my good friend and classmate, great American, Mr. Fortenberry.
Gentleman from Nebraska is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman from Georgia for the time and for recognizing our valuable partnership in this fine, august body. Mr. Speaker, today I also rise as the Vietnamese community in my district gathers for their regular meeting to express my support for National Vietnamese Refugees Day. Throughout the past years, I have listened with great interest and admiration to the poignant stories of hardship and triumph that many members of the Vietnamese community have shared with me. I am deeply moved by their dedication to the principles of liberty that have distinguished our American experience. This is expressed in the difficult decisions to leave their beloved homeland of Vietnam and to embrace our nation's founding principles, principles that those of us who have never experienced life under oppression and communism invariably run the risk of taking for granted. Even today, Vietnamese American refugees gather across this nation to raise awareness of concerns affecting their loved ones back in Vietnam. Lincoln's Vietnamese American community has been particularly concerned with religious freedom and Vietnam's two-child policy, and I have tried to make it a priority to urge the government of Vietnam to uphold its stated commitments to religious freedom. I deeply value the active civic engagement of the Vietnamese American community in Nebraska with regards to these and other important human rights issues. It is my privilege to serve the